So this video needs a little bit of a warning. When I started filming it, my plan was to do 223, 22-250, and 308. I ran out of time on the range and didn't get to shoot 308, so it's moving to the next video. So this one's 223 and 22-250. I think I've edited the video to remove most of the references to 308, but if I missed any, that's what that's all about. So if you're bummed about missing 308, you won't have to wait very long. Next video, I'm going to add another cartridge. I think it's probably going to be 6 ARC. So keep an eye out for 308 and 6 ARC with Reloader 15.5 in just a few days. All right, enjoy the show. So I was able to pick up a couple pounds of Alliant Reloder TS 15.5. I paid dearly. $60 a pound plus $30 of hazmat plus regular shipping. I probably should have held off, but I'm extremely interested in this powder. I'm not sure what TS stands for.
Titty sprinkles.
Oh, there it is. Temperature stable. I want to test that eventually, but for today I just want to load up some test rounds so we can get some baseline velocity numbers and see if we can shoot some groups. Now, Alliant's website for this powder says it's an intermediate burn speed between Reloader 15 and Reloader 16. So there's some 15, there's some 16. Ideal for loading heavy bullets in 308 Winchester and 223 Remington. That's really good news. I love shooting heavy bullets in 223 and 308. They also say enhanced velocity in 6mm Wildcats versus Reloader 15, and that's pretty much the highlights. Now, if this powder is what it claims to be, then there's lots of room on the market for it. Like, we need this powder. There aren't a lot of extruded powders that can really reach those max velocities with heavy bullets in 223. I've got a whole series, the Mark 262 cloning series, where we've tried a bunch. Plenty of ball powders that can get the job done. Stuff like CFE 223 or Power Pro 2000 MR. These slow burning ball powders were able to pack a lot of powder into the case before it gets too compressed and the velocities get crazy. So I think the usefulness of TS 15.5, at least in 223, might come down to granule size, because thinking about another double base extruded powder that gives really good numbers in these sorts of applications, Vihtavuori N540 is one that comes to mind. Very small granules of powder. If we open this up and it's big, huge logs of powder where, you know, we start having compressed loads where it gets out of control. You know, a little bit of compression is fine, but it gets to a point where you can't seat your bullets without damaging them, and you've got to worry about the powder pushing the bullet out over time, that sort of stuff. So hopefully that's not what we'll find. I haven't even opened these guys yet. Looks like they were packaged in some sort of a sweatshop. Stuff must have been hot. Both cans are that way, where they're kind of dimpled. I guess that's good. No reason to have unnecessary air in there. All right, let's first of all, let's take a little sniff test. It doesn't have any peculiar odor. Smells kind of bland. Let's dip some out of here and we'll compare it to some other powders. All right, if I can manage not to spill these, I dumped out a couple of examples. So Reloader 15.5 is definitely bigger than 15 or AR comp over here. Just talking about the physical size of the granules. Looks to be pretty similar to Varget and nearly as big as Reloader 16. And there's the Vihtavuori N540 I was talking about a minute ago. So this is a little bit discouraging, especially in the 223 context, where we need to maximize the minimal amount of case capacity we've got, and it's very tough to do with large granules. So it is what it is. We'll see how it goes, but man, I was hoping for something that would pack a little bit better. So Alliant offers some load data for 8 different cartridges, and I want to shoot 3 today. The first one, if it's not already obvious, I want to shoot it in 223 with 77 grain bullets. We normally shoot the 77 grain Sierra, but I'm just about down to the felt. I didn't realize how low my supply was, but thankfully I found them in stock. I've already ordered a fresh box. For today, I want to shoot the 77 grain Berger OTM Tactical. In some previous tests, head-to-head against the Sierra, the Berger shoots as good or maybe just a little bit better. So it should do a good job of kind of standing in for the Sierra here for today's test. Here's the full load data for this load. Alliant shows a max charge of 25.1 grains with the 77 grain Sierra, so we're going to shoot up to 25.1 today with the Berger, and we'll do 0.3 of a grain increments, which puts us starting at 23.9. I've also already loaded up 5 shots with 22.1 grains of AR comp, just so we can kind of shoot a baseline group before we move on to the 15.5. The brass is Lake City 2018 head stamps, previously fired in this gun, and the primers are going to be CCI 41s. Now that's the test we've got the most knowledge about, because we know from our Mark 262 series, if we can hit 2750 to 2800 feet per second with my 18-inch white oak armament barrel, that would be really good. The second cartridge I want to shoot is 22-250, and I want to shoot the 55 grain Spear Gold Dot. Alliant has data for a 55 grain Spear soft point, and I don't have enough of those for this test, so we're going to switch over to the Gold Dot. I've already shot these in this gun. We know they shoot okay, and we know that the 1 in 14 twist of my 26-inch Douglas barrel is going to be able to stabilize them no problem. For primers on these, we're shooting the Federal GM 210Ms. The brass is twice fired Norma, and we're going to shoot standard overall length 2.350 in these. Back to the 223, we're shooting 2.260 in those. So these first two loads pretty straightforward, pretty much by the book. Alliant shows a max charge of 37.5, so we're also going to shoot 0.3 of a grain increments in this cartridge, so that puts us starting at 36.3. And I also used AR Comp to load up 5 baseline test rounds for today, so I've already got those loaded up. So that's the plan, and well, as you can see, I've already got these loaded, so I mean, even my seating dies are still set up. Pulled out the turret press so I could have them all set up and ready to go. So not much to do here. Just weigh out powder and seat bullets. So I've had my RCBS Charge Master Light fired up and warming up overnight. So hopefully things will be good and stable. Click on 0 just for the heck of it. And I'll try a couple check weights. This is 20 grains. Perfect. Here's 20 more. Perfect. Here's 5 more. Good. So the scale looks like it's going to behave today. So our first 223 charge is 23.9. So I'll get these all weighed out and then we'll have a look at the case fill. Okay, here's our max charge of 25.1 grains in 223. See if I can get some light in there. So it's right there in the shoulder area, about right there. So we might actually be able to live with that, but she's definitely going to be compressed because that's about how far our bullet needs to go down. So we've definitely seen worse. I went ahead and weighed out a max charge in 22-250. It looks kind of similar, maybe a little bit lower. It's 37.5 grains is hitting about the bottom of the shoulder perhaps. And that's what our seating depth looks like with the Gold Dot. So we should be good to go here in 22-250 if we're compressed at all, which I don't think we're going to be compressed at all. Now this was pretty dumb. I've got my standard Redding die set up for 223 and the Hornady set up for 22-250. I should have swapped those around or used a standard die in 22-250. So I had the micro adjust capability in 223, but I didn't do that because I'm an idiot. All right, 23.9 is first. Little bit of crunch. I need to grab my bullet comparator. Here's what I'll do. Let me seat a couple of them from each row and we'll see how bad the crunchiness gets and we'll see how much it affects our overall length or if we start getting bullet damage from the seating stem. All good so far. That's the third one. Okay, this is the max charge. Doesn't look like we boogered up the bullet. That's a good sign. Okay, bullet comparator time. This is my initial test loading that I loaded with AR Comp. 1.875. Next one 1.8745. 1.875. Okay, so that's our baseline, 1.875. This is our first Reloader 15.5 load. 1.886. So that's 11 thousandths longer. Next one's also 1.886. Kind of working my way up the tray here. 1.884. Next one 1.887. And here's the first of our max charge. 1.889. Here's the other max load. 1.889, exactly the same. So these are probably 2.274, 2.275. Yeah, there we go. So now the question is, do I adjust my die? or just deal with them a little bit long. Got some magazines I think they would fit in. Well, the biggest jump is seen right here on the first one, right? This is our starting charge, first row starting charge. And that's where it's already picked up 11 thousandths of overall length from these last 5 here are the baseline rows. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the die a little bit, which 10 thousandths is a pretty big adjustment. Let's see where that puts us. I went a little bit too far. 1.871. Our baseline number was 1.875, so I'm about 4 thousandths short, which might actually be good. I'll just leave it here. Yeah, baseline 1.875. So those first one, 2.253, something like that, down toward 2.250. And then as we get more compressed, they'll just grow a little bit longer, and our max charge might be at about 2.260. Sometimes I'll chase it and just adjust the die for every row. I'm not in the mood. It doesn't really matter, right? As long as they fit in our magazine, I don't care if the overall length is slowly growing just a little bit. It's pretty awesome though that, we're not marking up any bullets. They're crunchy, but nothing this breading seating stem can't handle, I guess. All right, that's it for 223. Exact same process for the other 2 cartridges. Weigh out the charges, seat the bullets with my dies that are already set up. So that's pretty boring. If anything worth talking about pops up, I'll turn the camera back on, but otherwise I'll just see you guys on the range. All right, let's start things off with 223. We are shooting at 100 yards. I've got the shot marker electronic target system running. Our first group here is going to be our baseline, with the 77 grain burger and 22.1 grains of AR comp. Tell you what, let's drop down to the row below. We'll shoot at the left dot there. So this is an 18-inch White Oak Armament SPR barrel with 1-in-7 twist and rifle gas. I just mounted the scope on here, so I did take a couple shots a minute ago with some other sighters I had, and it looks like it's right on. So let's see what happens. Okay, that's a pretty good start. 0.87 inches, about what we'd come to expect from this gun. Sometimes we do a little bit better, but that's not far off. So the velocity was 2693 with a 10.4 feet per second standard deviation. The last time I shot this load, it was in Starline brass, which has a little bit less case capacity than the Lake City, so which means a little bit higher pressures, a little bit higher velocities. In that brass, it was 2764. Okay, so our first group with Reloader 15.5 is 23.9 grains. Let's get shot marker moved around. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, first velocity was 2606. And this first piece of brass looks really good. So velocity right about where we should expect. Brass looking good. Let's see if it groups. All right, that's not a bad start. 0.67 inches. I had to break my shooting position and go run down brass after the first one. So those next 4 were 0.47 inches. I like it. That's a good start. Average velocity ended up being 2619 with a standard deviation of 12.5. Not a bad start at all. Okay, rest of the brass looked okay. So moving on to 24.2. Unless I see an unexpectedly high velocity, I'm not going to break my shooting position this time. We'll just check brass at the end and hope for the best. Okay, 0.86 inches, that's not too bad. Average velocity up to 2651. Standard deviation's going in the wrong direction, 19.3. Brass looked good. Let's move on. Don't screw it up. Don't screw it up. Shot felt good. Yep, screwed it up, but that shot felt just great. Man, I don't even want to know what we were shooting before. 0.36 inches. Kiss my butt. Crap. That shot went over there where no other shot has gone before here. I'm going to blame eye fatigue. I was shooting too fast. Okay, moving on to 24.8. Brass is still looking good. Might as well double check, make sure the suppressor's staying tight. Yep, feels good. All right, we got a lot to like here. 0.68 inch group, average velocity 2695, standard deviation 6.6. Okay, last up with 223 is 25.1 grains. Okay, finished off with a 0.93 inch group. Velocity 2722, standard deviation 8.5. Tell you my first thoughts on this. I mean, yes, it's compressed. We don't have much more room to go, but it's not that bad. I didn't mess up any bullets with my seating die. And we made it to 2720 in factory 223 data. You know, if we go over to my Mark 262 series where we kind of forget any load data and shoot up into some just absurd pressures, it's not smart. So being able to do this, stay right with the book data, is pretty impressive. All right, so our brass looks good there. Let me go hang a fresh target and we'll move on to 22-250. So I think the last time I had this gun out, it was over on Twitch, and I put this fixed 24 power Weaver scope on it. I didn't have a lot of confidence in the scope that was on there, and we shot a couple good groups with this one, so hopefully we're in good shape. So this is a 26 inch Douglas barrel with 1 in 14 twist and a Remington 788. So same deal as before. The first 5 shots, these will be the ones I loaded with AR comp. Get the gun warmed up and give us a baseline to work from. My last test with this load, it was 3,543 feet per second. So let's see what it is today. First shot was 3573, so that's about what we expected. Okay, so 1.03 inches, velocity 3559, standard deviation 8.8. That's not a max load. It's actually not even close to a max load. It's like 2.5 grains of powder below max. Man, 22-250 velocities are just insane. Okay, let's move on to Reloader 15.5. I think about an inch is what we saw the last time I tested with this bullet. It's a little bit disappointing. I mean, we've seen better with some others, but we'll see how it goes here. Our first load is 36.3 grains. First velocity there, 3692. Good bolt lift. Just comparing the brass, the way the primer looks and all that, to the AR comp load we just shot, and it looks pretty much the same. Let's see if it groups. All right, that's not bad at all. Zoom in a little bit there. 0.65 inches. Velocity was 3687. Standard deviation 12.2. What were the best four here? Yeah, best four into 0.45 inches. I like it. Okay, 36.6 grains is next. Screwed up the group with that last shot, didn't I? Yeah, 0.55 without it. But still, 0.76, nothing to be ashamed of. Velocity up about 35 feet per second to 3722 with a 9.9 standard deviation. Looking pretty good so far. Okay, next up, 36.9. Piece of brass looks fine, but that bolt lift felt just a little bit heavy. See what the next one's like. See if I feel the same thing this time. No, it was fine. Okay. Didn't see that coming. Yeah, and it's got that same heavy lift at the top. Let me get out in better light and have a closer look at this brass. I'm not seeing much on the brass. Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and finish this group. So I got 2 more shots. This gun does not belong to me, so we might just call it good right here. We're up in the 3750 feet per second range. Which, man, it might just be, I'm just not used to 22-250 numbers. But God, that is smoking fast. Right back down where it's supposed to be. Let's see what this one feels like. Yeah, that one was fine. And that one went all the way down there. Okay. Average velocity was 3753. I forgot to write down what the Alliant data said. I'm going to go look that up real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, so the Alliant data for their max charge, it said 3762. Right now we're at 3753, so we're right about where they topped off, but we've got a 26-inch barrel and their test was a 24-inch barrel. So we're probably okay here. We did substitute in a different bullet. This is the Spear Gold Dot, and the data was for just a 55 grain soft point. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to stop. I'm going to stop here. Like I said, it's not my gun. There's definitely some promise here. We got these wild shots on this group, but those 2 previous groups are not bad at all. The standard deviations are only getting better as we go. This last one here, 6.4, is pretty darn good. So, yeah, I think we're good. So, I mean, it looks like a winner, right? It's getting the job done, and beating up an old gun with 10 more shots isn't going to prove anything else. Let's get back to the bench. Okay, so this is our fired 223 brass. Lowest charge on the left, moving over to the highest charge. And there's really not much of anything to show you here. There are a couple shiny spots here and there. If I can get just the right angle. Definitely nothing I'm worried about. Case is very dirty, but this is normal for shooting suppressed. So it's all good on the 223 side. And that's what I expected, right? Our limiting factor here, I don't think will end up being pressure. It's going to be how much powder we can fit in the case. On the 22-250 side of things, these are the 3 rows that we fired here. And there's nothing whatsoever. Nice big rounded primer. Nothing to see on any of the cases. I still don't feel bad about stopping. Still feel like it was the right choice. So I think I would call this a pretty successful first outing with Reloder 15.5. It behaved the way I thought it would. Like no surprises. Our velocities were predictable. In 223, the velocity rose 20 to 30 feet per second between each of our 0.3 of a grain increments. and about 30 or 40 with 22-250. We saw a couple standard deviation numbers in the high teens, but 4 of the 8 groups we shot had single-digit standard deviations, and we had some pretty excellent groups with each of the guns. So this hasn't even really begun to scratch the surface. On top of 308 and 6 ARC, that will be the next video here in just a couple days. I'm curious about 6.5 Grendel, 224 Valkyrie. They actually have 224 Valkyrie load data. So I'm excited to keep going and try it in some other stuff. Right now my plan is to do the next video with 308 and 6 ARC, and then I'd like to do a temperature stability test. I want to do a temperature stability test that puts 15.5 AR comp, Reloader 15, Vitivori N540, and maybe some others. I want to do temperature sensitivity tests on these. Maybe compare them to some of the best single base options like Varget or H4895 or something like that. Another powder I really want to test is Vitivori N555, but it won't really fit in this video. I'll have to do another one with kind of some of the Creedmoor 4350 type powders. We've tested a few of those already in the past, but yeah, I'm rambling now, which means it's past time to end the video. But I'm full of ideas. This powder will definitely get a Mark 262 video. Once I get the 77 grain Match Kings, we're going to push it a little bit farther than we did today. Yeah, that 25.1 grain load in 223 was already up to 27.22. So we're pretty much there as far as Mark 262 velocities. Just need a tiny little bit more. But we'll keep on cramming powder in there until we come up with a good reason to stop and see what our velocity is there. Should be fun. All right, that's it. Thanks for joining me. Sorry this video is going up late. The powder didn't arrive until Saturday, and I put up my videos on Sunday, and I got a little bit over ambitious about how much I could get done in that short period of time. But that's okay. All right, that's it. See you guys next time.